some of my experience during the civil rights movement. And a lot of you know my husband, you know my son, and you know me by name, Alfreda, but do you know Alfreda? So I'm going to give you a little bit of background of myself, and then I'm going to talk about the struggle in Selma that I had. I'm going to talk about Bloody Sunday, that I was there, but I wasn't actually involved in that particular thing. And so I'm going to start from there, and I made my notes and stuff and everything. I was born in a town called Raleigh County, Beckley, West Virginia. Okay, by the time I was the age of 6 months old, my mother, who was a single parent, she took me and moved me home, you know, like with my grandmother. At that time, my mother being a single parent and my dad, you know, actually, to be honest with you, wasn't in my life and stuff at that time. So, you know how you're raised by all your families. You got your aunt, you got your uncle, and you got your grandmother. And so my grandmother, what she did was, she actually, I would say, like, took me away from my mother and told my mother, let me raise this baby, you don't know what you're doing, you know, type of thing. And so I stayed with my grandmother, and she raised me up until the time I was 6 months old, up until I was the age of 17. And I moved, like we moved around. I went to school in a town called Miller Ferry, Alabama. I went to school there from the 1st to the 6th grade. At that time, we didn't have kindergarten. So I never went to kindergarten. We just started right out in the 1st grade. Okay, and from the 7th through the 10th grade, I moved to Selma, Alabama, and I went to school there from the 7th to the 10th grade. And then back to a little town called Camden, Alabama. I graduated in 1967 from a school called the Camden Academy High School. And I was at the age of 17. As soon as I turned the age of 17, I had to become grown up to take care of myself. So that's just a little bit background on myself. Okay, so I was vaguely remember the time that I was in elementary school. My grandmother took me to West Virginia, and we was getting on the bus, and I remember at that time or something, we had to get on the bus. We had to go all the way to the back of the bus, you know, like the white sits up front, and blacks, you know, would sit in the back. And then if we didn't have seats to sit, we would have to stand up. And I remember going to, like when I go to the doctor's office, they had 2 sides. They have a waiting room for whites, and they have a waiting room for colors. And then you have the water fountain. And so, you know, it's just, the list and stuff just goes on and on. And being at that age, and having to experience that, you know, at the time and stuff, it bothered me, and it took me a long time, you know, to talk about it. It's one of those things and stuff that you want to forget, but you can't forget, because every time I go home and I cross that Edmonds Pettus Bridge, all those memories and stuff come back, so I never forget those. So if I get a little teary-eyed, just ignore me, I'm a crybaby anyway. Okay. The struggle in Selma, Alabama was the hardest for me because we had to do a lot of work to accomplish what we wanted to get done. And that, when I say accomplish that we want to get done, we had help from everybody. You know, people and stuff came over from all across the United States to help us and to give us encouragement and to work with us on different things. On one particular day, I was in the 9th grade and stuff, and I was walking home, you know, from school. We decided to form our own little march. And so we started singing the song, and the first song and stuff that we sing that really jogged back memories, that we should not be moved. And I was very, when I heard that, I said, oh my God, I said, that's the song and stuff that we were singing when we started our own little march. And I thought that just put everything right in perspective for me. And I was walking home from school, and so we started marching, okay? And then after we got done with that song, someone, I don't know who called, someone had called the state police highway patrol, because they said the march and stuff that we was done, you know, it wasn't legal. We didn't have permit. Being kids, you're going to do you do stuff. And you don't think about it, you just do it. And so that's what we did. And so when I saw the police crews, and they had like on both sides of us, they had like state troopers with their guns on one side. They had on the one side, they had another set. And so we had to walk like up the middle and get on the bus. At that time and stuff, we was being arrested, and they called us off to jail. And so, yes, I got arrested. I probably have a record down there somewhere. And the first thing and stuff that when I got on that bus, the first thing came to my mind, my grandmother's going to kill me. Because she was one of those type of parents, and she tells your grandparents, if she tells you to do something, and the fact that I was living with her, you do what I tell you to do in my house. And that time I did. I was hard-headed, okay? And then I missed school the next day, and so I had to go to court, and she came down, her and my mother both came down and got me out of jail. They said, don't you ever do that again. Because they was afraid for me. They was afraid for me. They thought something that was going to happen to me, but I was okay. But I felt good about what I did. Maybe I didn't understand the reason why I did it, but as I go back, I know what I did was for a good reason.
Were you treated fairly by the police when they picked you up?
No, well, they didn't like put their hands on us or anything, just to see the two people and stuff, you know, just seeing them on the side, you know, and talking to you, getting on that bus, and I'm thinking like, what is my grandma going to do to me when she come to pick me up, and different things like that. But at that time and stuff, I wasn't mistreated or anything like that at that time. Okay, and then I remember like one time and stuff, I went to a movie theater. We had a movie theater called the Roxy Movie Theater. It was right around the corner. And I was like walking to that movie theater. This, you know, white young man, he just saw me walking with my friends, and he came along, you know, he just like, this bird just ran over us with the bicycle. And so at that time, you know, what do? Do you fight back? So we didn't do anything because we was afraid to. Because I knew that if I would have fought back, I probably would have been the one that would have got arrested or got in trouble, and you know, and been put in jail again. So I didn't do that. I also remember what we call Bloody Sunday, and what they do is they celebrate that Bloody Sunday. They celebrate that every year on March, you know, it's on March the 7th. That Bloody Sunday is the Sunday when the actual march took place, and this wasn't, and where they had the water hoses and the cow prods, and you saw the police officers, you know, different people getting beat, and that type of thing. And so I remember that Sunday very well because the house and stuff that we lived in was right around the corner from the hospital that they was taking the people to. And so you can see those people come in on stretchers, blood here and hose down, tear gas. I don't know what a cow prod look like because I haven't been around a lot of cows. So, and you know, that type of those things was used. And now, and I know that it's a lot of stuff, and I know that you probably have a lot of questions, and I know there's more to the story here and maybe later that I'm telling, because I could talk about this, go on and talk about this all day long. We'll be sitting here all day, and I know that you don't want to do that. But after all of that been done, there's a lot of changes and stuff has come to Selma. There has been a lot of things that if you go through there now, you would never even think it was the same town. We have a young man, his name is James Perkins. James Perkins him and I are fairly brilliant. You know, I don't say we're the best of friends, but we know each other. He became mayor of Selma. He beat a man. His name was Joseph T. Smitherman, who was the mayor of Selma for 35 years. So can you imagine being a mayor of one town that long? 35 years he was the mayor of Selma. And so he beat him, and he served 2 terms. They have another guy, he's an African American, who is now mayor, and so James is working again. I said, you gotta get back in there, you know, so. in all, after all this, all the things and everything has been done, you know, things and stuff work out, you know, really well. I remember my first time and stuff, I became a registered voter. That was here in Columbus. At that time, you had to be age 21. And I was so mad because I registered to vote. When I turned age 21, I ran downtown. The week after that, I get to vote. You know, I get to do all this stuff. And soon after that, they changed the voting age to 18. And so they changed the voting age and stuff to 18. And I think that was his principal. I don't know the principal name. His name was at East High School because I thought he said, I think it was East High School, correct me if I'm wrong, where the kids and stuff could not graduate unless they registered to vote. And I don't know his name. Huh? I think so, because he put it in place where the kids and stuff could register to vote. They couldn't graduate it unless they registered to vote. And so that was a good thing, you know, and that was a good thing for me. And I'm just thankful for all the people and stuff that help you have, like people, and just to see the people of all different races coming to Selma to do all this stuff, you know, to help you. And then last, but this is the last thing I'm going to say, because I can go on and on. Hope Church was the first church that I've been in that was a multicultural church. Before Hope, it wasn't, I never had been in a multicultural church before. And so what happened was, my husband was working here as a custodian. I don't know if you remember that or not. I was sitting out front, and there was this lady waiting on my husband, you know, to get off work, because I said, I'm not going in there. You know, that was just me, because I still had those feelings, you know, which part was wrong. And I was kind of saying, oh my God, I really don't want to go in there. And so the lady's name was Emma Bell and Roland Heltner. They came out to the car. What are you doing sitting here? Get out here and come in the church. So I said, you know, I really didn't want to, but I came in and she introduced me to everybody, you know, and then I looked around and said, oh my God, I said, this is kind of nice. And then while I was in, Shirley Hubert, and I think the next Sunday what they had was lunch, dinner, and served. People said, why don't you come to church and stuff next Sunday? We're going to serve dinner. I said, okay. I'm good for that. And so, and all in all, I just hope, and all in all, after everything has been said, coming from a single parent home, being raised by different people in your family, moving around and stuff the way that I did, and by the grace of God and the help of everyone, I don't think I did too bad.